Hi, der Jan hier von Musiker und wir sind heute mal für ein Interview in einen etwas anderen Ort gegangen, und zwar in den Englischen Garten in München. Denn unser Interviewpartner Koch wird später hier im Alfonsus, einem kleinen Live-Club hier um die Ecke, ein kleines, aber feines Konzert spielen. Und jetzt hat er sich noch ein paar Minuten Zeit genommen für ein kleines Interview. So, hi Greg, how are you?
I am well, thank you very much.
Everything fine so far on this little tour through Europe?
Yes, I always enjoy coming to Germany, and the weather's been great so far, and all is good. I haven't had any Schweinhaxen yet, but we'll work on that.
Okay. And you're playing in a tiny little club tonight.
Yeah.
Do you like these kind of spots for live music?
You know, I'll play wherever, you know. I mean, I like intimate crowds like that. It should be fun. This is a little smaller than usual, but you know, hey, we're here in Munich, and the sun is shining, so all is good.
Okay, and for those of our readers who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about your career in music business and how
Sure.
it all started?
Well, boy, it's going back a ways. You know, I always wanted to have my own band. I did go to school for music, and when I put together my own band, it was kind of a guitar-driven thing, obviously, but it was kind of a bluesy, jazz, funk, country amalgam. You know, my own little take on all of the different genres, kind of thrown into one, which I really like. And but it's hard to categorize. So for the purposes of the career, as far as taking off with the band, it's been a little bit of an uphill climb because we're not easy to categorize. But where it came in useful to me is that I could play all these different styles, and a couple of guys from Fender Guitars saw the band. They loved the band. They liked all the different style stuff that we touched on. So I ended up doing a bunch of stuff for Fender Guitars all over the world for a long time, for about 15 years. And I still do a little bit. I was just in Australia for them, but I was always an independent contractor. A lot of people thought I was an employee of Fender. I never was. I always, would make separate arrangements. I would do X amount for Fender USA, some for Fender Germany, go over to Australia, go over to England, go to South Africa, go here, all over the place. But I always, had my own band. I was on a couple different labels over the years. I put about, 5 records out on my own originally. I had 2 records out on Steve Vai's Favorite Nations label, and those were more kind of guitar instrumentally records. And then I had a few, I think I had 2 on Provogue, and then 2 on a German label. Or was it 3? 3 on a German label. XYZ, ZYX, I can't remember. ZYX. Something like that. And the last couple records I put out on my own. Just because, in this day and age, I already have my fan base that, so I just kind of make the records my own and come over here, do some gigs at home. As of late, I've been doing a lot of stuff with Fishman, who's known for their acoustic pickups and whatnotery, but a guy that used to work for Fender back in the day got a hold of me and said he was working with Larry Fishman on these new electric guitar pickups. And at first I was kind of hesitant, but then I heard him and I was like, these sound great. One thing led to another, and I've got my own signature set of Telecaster pickups. I've been working with the Koch amplifier people. I met them at Music Messe last year. And I'd always heard about the amps. I played one once and I really liked it. Excuse me. And they came up to me and they said, we're big fans. How could we work together? And I ended up using a twin tone for my demos I was doing at Messe last year. And I loved it. And so they sent me one back home and I've been using it ever since. So I'm kind of getting something together with them. I'm working on a signature guitar with Fret King, Trev Wilkinson's company. So we're working on that as we speak. And just put another Hal Leonard book. I've got a bunch of books with Hal Leonard. The Guitar Method I wrote with a guy named Will Schmidt, and then I wrote a blues book for him. I got about 14 books and DVDs and stuff. So I did a slide guitar book and video that just came out a couple weeks ago. So working on another couple of records. I do all these videos for Wildwood Guitars back home. I started doing that about 4 years ago, and they've got like 40 million views. It's insane. But that's been something that's come along that I never would have kind of figured on. It's just kind of weird that it happened, and then it's a lot of fun. I love working with those guys. They're great. The store's been highly successful, and I go all over the world, and people have seen those videos. I mean, I could be walking down the street in Sydney, Australia, some guy, oh, I love your Wildwood videos. I watch them. I'm like, what? And then I was just up in Minneapolis, and I'm at a Starbucks in the airport. This guy comes up to me, "Oh, I'm a huge fan." I go, "Oh, are you from the Twin Cities?" "No, I'm from Kansas City or whatever." I'm like, "Well, that's weird." And then the next day I was back at the airport flying out of there, and the other guy comes up to me, and he's a big fan. He's from Pittsburgh, so it's weird. So the video thing has been kind of a in comparison to all the things I've done, from the Fender thing to my own label to being on different labels, all that kind of stuff kind of pales in comparison to the exposure I've gotten from these videos. So that's been kind of cool.
But would you say in these days it's for most musicians normal to do many things?
I would say yes. I mean, I always say, I taught this college back home last year. My son plays drums, and he wanted to go to this music school, and up in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, up in Minnesota, and it's up in Minnesota for me. That's over in Minnesota. Anyway, so I taught up there 2 days a week, and he got free tuition. See what I did there? It's kind of a good deal. So, and I would have to talk to these kids, and I was like, you got to do a lot in order to make a living as a musician these days. And there's a lot of people who are very bitter. Oh, the record companies aren't what they were, and da-da-da-da, and that's true. But there's a lot of other ways to make money that didn't exist before, primarily because of the internet. But, like the video thing has been very, very good to me. Selling stuff online has been great for me. I do all the different things I do. I do clinics. So I do clinics for Fishman. I do some clinics for Fender still. I do videos once a month. I go out for 4 days to Colorado. I come over here and do gigs. I do gigs at home. I do these books for Hal Leonard. I do Skype lessons. I teach at the college. So between all those different things, I'm doing better than I ever had before. So people go, well, the record company's like, well, when the record companies were doing great, I didn't make anything. I didn't. It didn't affect me then. So, so it's, everything kind of balances in one way or another. I mean, it would be nice if people valued music differently than they do. But the good thing is that I've always noticed is that when people are exposed to music in the right way, they love it. I mean, it's still a force that can't be overcome. You know what I mean? It's like when they say, like, "Oh my God, this is why haven't I heard that?" You know what I mean? It's getting in front of people in the right places at the right time. And then by the same token, you can set up the greatest band in the world in some club where there's a million TVs on and people want to watch a game and they don't care that a band is there. So it's getting people to experience music in the right way at the right time, I think, is still the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talking a little bit about your gear.
Yes.
I guess most people think of you as like the Fender style and combo amp player.
Yes.
Would that be a correct
Well, what's interesting now is that since I've done all the Wildwood videos, I do all the Gibsons for them, and I played Gibsons for years,
Yeah.
and I have a whole different kind of way of, not a completely different way of playing, but I play differently on a Gibson scale with with humbuckers and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of folks that only know me from playing these Les Pauls now. You know what I mean? So it's but certainly over the years. I like Marshalls. I certainly like Friedmans, which I think is the best modern Marshall that there is. Have you played a Friedman?
Yeah.
That small box 50 is a delicious little morsel. But as you said, I'm a combo guy. So, at home I either use the Koch, which is a single 12 combo. The one they're making for me is a 210 combo. My favorite amp of all time is a Fender Vibrolux, which is 210s and about 35 watts or so. So that's what I like. I like an amp that you can either completely crank up and then just use the volume knob on the guitar, or if it's got a good overdrive channel, you can play a little bit quieter, which will be handy tonight in that small club. So yeah, I like combo, and Telecaster is probably my favorite guitar, or that style of guitar. So the one we're working on with Fred King is certainly a derivation of a Tele, but it's going to be a little larger body because I'm a big fella, and every time I'm playing, everyone's like, "Is that a smaller scale guitar?" I'm like, no, I'm just 6'7", so guitars look small on me. So something that's a little larger, not a lot larger, but just enough that it looks a little bit more proportional to the larger man.
Yeah, and you're mostly playing like clean and crunch sounds. Are you not?
I go both. I go all over the place. So clean tones, a little bit of gain, and then I like that kind of gain boost channel on the Koch amp that gets really dirty, and I do use it. So it goes all over the neck. And what's nice about these new signature pickups I have on my old guitars, I would always do this too, but I always like to turn the volume down on the guitar and get all the different sounds with the volume control. So I would always put like a bleed, volume bleed switch, so I don't lose any highs when I turn on the volume. With these pickups, you don't lose any volume when you turn down the pickup, and there's two voices, and one's a little hotter than the other one. So if I want to look at just a little incremental boost, I can get that. So it's like I got everything I want. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Before I would always be like, well, I like this. I would just like to get some kind of a boost here and there, but I don't want to bring any pedals. This kind of has it all for me, so I can do it all right on the guitar. In the amp, I want a little bit more, I can get it there too. So I'm kind of spoiled now. I got everything I need.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Would you say some guitarists use distortion to make playing easier?
I don't know. I mean, I've always valued playing. I like the sound of clean guitars. That's what initially attracted me to single coil pickups. Although Les Paul, the old Les Pauls, the ones from the 50s. They're a very bright sounding guitar, and those clean sound glorious as well. To me, I like to have the broadest dynamic range.
Yeah.
So I tend not to use a ton of distortion, because as you add that level of gain, it just compresses everything so much that there's really not a lot of room there. You know what I mean? So I tend to like guitar players that are don't play with a ton of gain. I mean, what's interesting is that if you listen to like a Led Zeppelin record, we always remember those sounds as being really crunchy, but in retrospect, when you listen to them, they're really not that distorted in comparison to the distortion that they have today. So, a crunch sound or an overdriven amp is always good, and I like fuzz. Fuzz is a great tone. So, yeah, I mean, if someone's playing just all distortion all the time, I think they're just missing out on a huge range of sounds that can be gotten. But a lot of country guys like to play with a lot of compression, and that makes things a little easier. I mean, you still got to be clean, but it does kind of balance things out so that things sound quicker. And, but I've never liked using compression, just because I like to have that broader dynamic range, and I still kind of have more of that bluesy background, so I like to be able to really lean into the strings when I want to, and all that kind of stuff. So I tend not to like to use compression, other than just what tubes do when they get hot.
Yeah. And some players, especially more the vintage orientated, would say a battery has nothing to do with the guitar, but when new pickups are active.
They are, and that initially was kind of a turnoff for me. But once they told me that there was no carving up of the guitar, you don't have to modify guitars at all, and that it's a lithium-ion battery that you charge up with a phone charger, and then you get like 300 hours of playing time. I was like, well, that's not really even an issue. You know what I mean? You know, and I do it. People, what happens when you run out? What if the batteries run out? Like, you get 300 hours.
Yeah.
And then a red light starts flashing when you've got 5 hours left. So I've never even come close to running out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like on this tour, I mean, I change strings after every 2 gigs. So if I'm changing strings, I'll just plug the thing in and top it off. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not even an issue. So, and the Strat and the Les Paul that I've had with the Fishman Fluence pickups, I've had for about going on 4 years now. Never run out. It's not been a thing at all. And you know, the pickups are really, you know, it's so weird. There's so many different pickups out, and you know, why do people care? Why did I care? Is what was my motto when they called me. I was like, why do I care that there's, you know, you got pickups? I mean, not that I knew that Larry wasn't a great guy, and I knew he made good stuff, but I was just, you know, I was busy already. Yeah. And but for me, what makes them exactly, I mean, just from a selfish point of view, as a tool that I would use. Years ago, when Fender was going to make me a pickup, when Bill Lawrence was working for him, I said, you know, I want a pickup that looks like a regular single coil, but sounds like a regular single coil, but with no 60 cycle hum. And I want some kind of incremental boost, not like a Clapton preamp where it's like 24 dB. Just want a little something, you know. And when it's all said and done, that's exactly what these pickups do. So, like my telly set, you look at it, it looks like a regular telly set. It comes with a control panel. It comes with an input jack with the 1/4 inch in, but there's also the mini USB thing where you charge it up right then and there. So you can't tell. And then the to go between the two sounds, in between the volume and the tone control, there's a little button and it's a push button, and they sound killer. So I really like them. I use them all the time. That's all I've used for the last 4 years. As a matter of fact, I had a 335 that I would bring out to gigs because I used to play 335s all the time, and I finally got another one after years of not having one. And but what would suck is that I would play my guitars with the Fluence pickups. I'd play this red Les Paul I have, and if I plug in the Strat or the Telly, I don't have to change the EQ. It just sounds like a Les Paul, which is, of course, usually not the case. And then when I would grab the 335 and plug it in, it would sound like there was a wet towel over the amp. And I was like, I can't use this guitar, you know, unless I just play it and EQ around it. So I sent it out to Fishman, and they put the pickups in there. And of course, they had to figure out how to do it because there's no control panel on a 335. So they put everything in the F-holes, and then underneath the pick guard, there's a little thing where you put the charger in. So, and again, you look at them, you can't tell. And then you get two voices, you know. You get something that's like the original PAFs, underwound, real glassy, but still a humbucker in terms of the way it sounds. And then you can pop up the tone control, just get a little bit of something that's a little hotter, you know. So it's a killer.
Yeah. And would you say they feel like vintage pickups? Because I know everybody talks about the sound of pickups, but for me, different pickups have a different
feel to them. Yeah. They feel completely natural to me as far as there's no latency, there's no weird compression stuff. It's, if anything, I mean, the only criticism that you might be able to make is they give you too much honesty about your playing. You know what I mean? They're very clean and open and dynamically sensitive. And in comparison to like a regular humbucker is like, you know, the frequency range is a little smaller, it's a little bit more focused. Actually, all other pickups that I've played in comparison to those guitars sound more MIDI and more focused. These are very, very open, very, very clean, very, very dynamic. So I like it because that's the way I play. So I can see where people be like, this is a little too, this is a little too honest.
Yeah.
But I really think they're great. And you know what's interesting is that everybody that I've encountered, you know, a lot of guitar player friends of mine are like, what are these pickups? You know, what? I'm like, well, and I plug in and I start doing like, what's the deal? How are they made? And I'm like, well, instead of, you know, they always think that it's some kind of modeling thing. It's not modeling. It's that instead of having copper windings, there are these aerospace, you know, very, very thin circuit boards that the coil is printed on and then stacked up. So the coil is made out of these circuit boards that's surrounding, you know, alnico magnets. So then you can voice it any way that you want it, and yada, yada, yada. They're like, what? Whatever. And then they hear it, and then they hear the sounds, and they're like, well, why haven't I heard about these things? It's like, well, you just told me you heard it. You know what I mean? But it takes so long for guitar players to acquiesce. You know what I mean? They're always, because everyone knows everything. It's all been done.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm no different. I mean, when they first told me about them, again, I was like, really? And then I heard them, and I was pretty dumbstruck. So every time I go and show them to people and they hear them, they can't believe it. But it's just getting the word out.
Yeah, but I guess they are a little trend in the pickup world because there are more new, like, signature models coming out with them.
Right.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, word's going
Word
around.
is spreading, yes. And the tele pickups of mine apparently are selling very well, which is good.
Yeah.
Because I got 4 kids and they're very expensive.
Okay. And which songs can we expect from you tonight? How does your program look?
You know, what's interesting is I'm using a German rhythm section this time, who are very good, and they've learned. You know, I've got a very broad grab bag of stuff from the records over the years. I mean, I think it's 14 records over the years. So, and some of it's more chops oriented, some of it's more rootsy, some of it's more songy. It's kind of all over the map. And I've taken a pretty good cross section of all the different stuff, but all the tunes that people always want to hear over the years, and the ones that they always throw up on YouTube, I'm doing all of them. So, you know, the chicken picking things, the bluesy things, the crazy stuff, the medleys. You know, I do these medleys where 1 minute I'm playing Chet Atkins, the next minute we're playing Led Zeppelin. We're doing all of that. So,
but you seem to be like a trio guy. What's so cool about a trio?
I like trios because I like the space, and I like the dynamics that you can get with the trio. I do like playing with keyboard players, provided I've had enough time to train them.
Okay.
And I've got a really good guy at home, as a buddy of mine, who I do stuff with every now and again. But coming over to Europe, it's very hard to bring a band larger than a trio and have it make money. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. So, but I've always gravitated to playing with trios anyway. But, you know, in a perfect world, because it gives me total freedom. You know, I can do different chord substitutions. I can go off on different tangents. And then you don't have to worry about 2 guys following you.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a keyboard player, he's got to be a unique guy that really listens. That's been the thing over years. It's like I will have keyboard players, and I really like the sound of a Hammond B3. I usually always use some kind of a Leslie simulator type of a pedal. And it's always kind of when I get a B3 guy, I'm like, oh my God, I love the sound. It's so great. And then they'll play, and then after a while, I'll be like, why don't you set up next to me tonight so I can hear what you're doing? You know what I mean? And that's usually the last gig.
Okay.
Because, you know, my gig's is a strange thing. There's rock involved, there's blues, there's this country aspect, but there's the jazz thing. So you have to be able to really listen and respond quickly. Yeah. And a lot of musicians don't listen.
Yeah.
So, you know, they just play their tune. I know the song, you know what I mean? I kind of hear what you're doing. I'm going to play the song all the way through. This is a totally dynamic, interwoven thing, and finding people that are able to respond to that usually works best in a trio.
Yeah, and now as you have German musicians, did you find them over the internet?
No, Klaus, my agent and tour manager over here, he recommended Uwe on bass, who I've met before, and I knew he was great. And then he found a drummer, and so we rehearsed on Saturday, all day Saturday night, and then on Sunday during the day, and then we played last night. And it was really good. So, I mean, I've done things over the years where I've been matched up with like name guys, and it's been a nightmare. And then other times, you know, it's really, really great. So you never know how it's going to go, and this is going great. So it'll be just fine.
Sounds great. So yeah, we're looking forward to hear you play.
Oh well, thank you.
Later. So now we better go back to the club.
Sounds good.
like missing sound check,
That's
and
right.
they have to play without you.
That's right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, my pleasure. Thank you.